You're watching CW Montana. This is the MTN 9 o'clock news.
And good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Thursday. I'm Andrea Lutz. Ahead tonight, Missoula police cracking back open a decades-old cold case as they've brought in some big guns to help. We'll explain coming up. Plus, changes on the way for the Butte Superfund cleanup site, but the plan is getting negative review from folks. Reaction on the way. But first, it's coming as a shock to many. A tie vote in the legislature spelling a possible end of Medicaid expansion in Montana. The bill to continue Montana's Medicaid expansion program hit a roadblock in the Montana legislature, and supporters might not have time to get it back on track. New at 9 tonight, MTN's chief political reporter Mike Dennison explains what's next.
A close vote was expected Thursday in the Senate on the bill reauthorizing Medicaid expansion, which provides government-funded health care for 96,000 low-income adults in Montana. And it didn't disappoint in that regard. It went down on a 25-25 tie, with all 25 no votes coming from Republicans. GOP opponents, including Senate President Scott Sales of Bozeman, said it's time to say no to programs that are bankrupting the country.
We talk a lot about future generations and investments in future generations, and this is going to be good for our kids, and this is going to be good for our grandkids. And I'm going to tell you what, this runaway spending that this bill promotes isn't good for those future generations. It's good for this generation. And to hell with the people that are going to pay the bill, which are my kids and my grandkids, and yours too.
Republican Senator Dee Brown, another opponent, spent more than 6 minutes reading off a list of payments to Montana hospitals for Medicaid expansion, $1.34 billion over the past 2 years.
I don't think that Medicaid expansion is about the health of Montanans. I think it's about the money going to hospitals.
Yet the bill isn't necessarily dead. Several Republicans who voted no have supported Medicaid expansion in the past. And earlier this week, some of them indicated they're withholding their vote until knowing whether an unrelated proposal will advance, the bill to help Northwestern Energy buy part of a coal strip power plant and transmission line. Supporters of the Medicaid bill have until Friday to ask the Senate to reconsider Thursday's vote, and said that's what they intend to do. They also said the state can't afford to say no to Medicaid expansion, for it's done more than its share of good in the state since beginning in 2016.
This is going to help people go back to work. It's going to make people healthy again. It's going to get them off their addictions and able to once again function in society.
Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Medicaid expansion is a $700 million a year program with 90% of it funded through the federal government. Missoula County preparing for high water as county commissioners declare an emergency ahead of spring flooding. Commissioners say the Clark Fork River could hit minor flood stage in the coming weeks. While there's no flood emergency now, the proclamation allows the county to better prepare. The county can begin coordinating agencies to respond. While the flood stage in the Orchard Homes area, which flooded last spring, was lowered from 10 feet to 7.5. Residents are welcome to attend a public meeting on April 24th. In Missoula, new details on the Superfund cleanup at the old Smurfs Stone Container Mill site. The EPA says it will need more study and sampling before cleanup is finalized. They told Missoula County leaders sampling will continue for at least another season. Still, those with the Clark Fork Coalition say they're still concerned about contamination at the landfill near the site.
It's about 5 million cubic yards of materials in unlined, largely unregulated containment facilities. We know that they are in contact with groundwater, that they have there have been documented releases of arsenic, manganese, and dioxins to groundwater in excess of state standards or proposed state standards. In the case of manganese, they're about 600 times the level of the proposed standards. We know that shallow aquifers in contact with the Clark Fork River.
The EPA says if evidence of contamination does develop, it can call for an emergency. New details tonight when it comes to changes to Butte's Silverbow Creek Superfund cleanup. Now the EPA says it can't reach the Montana standard for cleanup. The EPA planned to collect stormwater in basins at the bottom of Butte Hill, then clean it and add it back to the creek. But the EPA now says Butte Hill is too contaminated to reasonably reach Montana's standards of clean water. They say the national standard is in reach. However, the national standard of quality much more lenient than Montana's standard. And now a 60-day public comment period begins on that. MTN's Medeiros Babb hears from community members as that latest EPA plan is unveiled.
Now that the EPA has proposed its changes for the Butte Superfund cleanup, the public has 60 days to comment. I talked with local citizens and county officials who all had different opinions on the matter.
Well, my initial thoughts are finally we're getting somewhere, and after 30 years of being listed as a Superfund site, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
It's the first step to defining what that work is for the future and how we can enforce that to be completed and to make possible everything that is possible here in Butte.
We think that this is probably a good thing and to move us forward to get past Superfund and get a consent decree and move forward as a community.
Butte is a mining community. It's a highly mineralized area. It is quite possible that these standards would have never been able to be met just due to the natural mineralization of the hill.
I'm offended by that. I'm offended. I mean, I think that Butte deserves and needs the best cleanup possible, and to give us a cleanup where the only way that the EPA and the state and the local government can solve the problem is by reducing the discharge standards of the water to the creek, and that's just wrong.
You know, we went into this negotiations with three things in mind: protect the taxpayers, protect the environment, and protect the human health. And we have met all three of those requirements. So I think that the negotiating team is doing a good job, and I think Butte people should be happy with what's coming out of it.
Reporting from Butte, Medeiros Babb, MTN News.
All right, and we'll let you know what happens after that 60-day comment period is up. We do have a warning for you about avalanches tonight as experts caution people heading into the backcountry. Snowpack in Montana's lower level mountain ranges is unstable. This as warmer temperatures help melt that top layer of snow. In higher elevations, new snow is added to wind and ice, making the conditions dangerous. In the Gallatin National Forest, avalanche experts say the safest time to recreate is probably in the morning.
When you leave the house and you're out and you go out skiing, if there's a supportable crust, things are safe. By the afternoon, that crust a lot of times melts, and so as soon as it melts and we're in all this wet snow, that means the avalanche danger is rising and we need to head on out of there.
So avalanche advisories come out each Monday and Friday. New tonight, we've got some first photos of the 2019 spring plow season on the Going to the Sun Road. Plow crews on the west side of Logan Pass made it 1 mile past the loop, but met ice on the road at Red Rock Point. On the east side, crews are focusing on plowing St. Mary and working to clear snow and debris beyond the Rising Sun Gate. The hiker and biker closure sign is still located at Avalanche on the west side. Crews don't expect to have the entire Going to the Sun Road open until sometime in June. It's a dangerous job, it always looks like. Well, new details tonight surrounding a Missoula County cold case in the hope that new technology can help solve it. Back in 1991, a married couple killed in the Swan Valley during a road trip. Iva LaRue and Kenneth Cheatham were shot. Well, today the case remains unsolved, but Missoula County has hired 2 ex-federal investigators to review new evidence taken from the scene. And now, of course, there's better technology for detectives to work with.
Worked on a violent crime squad, mostly Indian country violent crime, and I was on a cold case task force working cold cases and missing persons cases with local and state law enforcement in New Mexico.
Most of my investigative experience is related to transnational organized crime and kind of general investigative aspects and capabilities, and kind of I think my role in helping out on this is more on the technical side.
So there is something also pretty interesting to tell you about when it comes to this case. So police want to know about an old camcorder that was stolen from the victim's van. Police want to hear from anyone who acquired a Hitachi video camera back in the fall of 1991. If you want pictures and a little bit more information on that, we do have it on our website. A word of caution tonight to Flathead Valley residents after a Tennessee man is caught selling fake insurance policies. Montana State Auditor Matt Rosendale issued a cease and desist order against Mervyn Graber. He's accused of selling fake policies to at least 20 Montanans. Folks purchased policies from a company called Tennessee Christian Mutual Motorist Aid. If you bought insurance through that company, chances are it's not credible. Remember that unclaimed Lucky for Life Montana Lotto prize purchased in Great Falls? Yep, we told you about that. Turns out a Great Falls grandmother checked her numbers and she won. Wanda Guzman is the first Montanan to win the Lucky for Life. Top prize winners receive $1,000 a day for as long as they are alive. Guzman's prize, worth $7.3 million, pretty big number. She says that she has no immediate plans for the money except to pay bills and enjoy life. A Billings woman hopes to get honorary veteran status after serving as a nurse during World War II. Laura Koch-Natvig is in her 90s, and she filled in as a cadet nurse at a naval base in San Diego, California, when others were called overseas. Just last week, Montana Senator Steve Daines co-sponsored a bill to give benefits to cadet nurses. She wants to be buried in the National Cemetery in Laurel.
I knew I was going to be a nurse before I even started to school in the first place. That was always from the time I was born, I think. I made up my mind I was going to be a nurse. Well, it'd be a blessing to be able to be buried, so I know where I'll be buried anyway.
Well, as it turns out, similar bills, just like Daines has introduced, have been introduced in Congress before. They've never made it out of committee. Still to come on tonight's MTN 9 o'clock news. Smallmouth, big problem. Some introducing an invasive smallmouth bass into a pond near Belgrade. We're going to tell you what the threat is. Plus, ready for nice weather in your region? I know I am. Bob McGuire will tell you if we're going to get any. It's right after the break.